This mountain was never just a mountain. For centuries, it was waiting for the day humans would break the promise. That night finally arrived. The sky above the valley turned pitch black. Thick clouds covered every star. There was no moonlight, no sound of wind. Only one sound could be heard in the distance. A rumble, long, like the sound of something enormous, heavy, moving deep within the earth. The people of the kingdom could not sleep that night. Many of them stood outside their homes, staring toward the mountain. The sky above the mountain was still glowing red. The light was now far brighter, like a giant fire hidden behind the clouds. Then, the ground trembled once, twice. The shaking grew stronger. Wooden houses began to creak loudly. The water in the river rippled violently. In the palace, guards ran through the stone corridors. Several statues fell from their pedestals. Torches on the walls swayed wildly. The king stood on the palace balcony. He stared at the distant mountain. For the first time that night, his face looked tense. Then, the sound came. Boom! A massive explosion shook the entire valley. The peak of the mountain suddenly spewed fire. Red light shot into the sky. Huge rocks were hurled into the air. The black sky turned blazing red. Hot ash began to fall like rain. Villagers screamed in panic. Children cried. People started running in every direction. But that was only the beginning. The ground suddenly cracked. A long fissure appeared in the middle of the village road. Rice fields split apart. River water overflowed from its banks. From those cracks, hot smoke and poisonous steam rose. On the mountain slopes, streams of lava began to descend. Massive rocks fell from the cliffs, glowing red like rivers of fire, destroying the forest in their path. Trees burned. The miners, who were still on the mountain, tried to escape, but many of the mine tunnels had already collapsed. Some of them were trapped inside. The rumbling from within the mountain grew louder. Boom! A second explosion erupted, even larger than the first. Part of the mountain's peak collapsed. A gigantic cloud of ash rose into the sky, covering the entire valley. In the palace, the stone walls began to crack. Massive pillars collapsed onto the floor. The guards shouted for everyone to get out, but it was already too late. The ground beneath the palace began to split. A huge crack spread across the palace courtyard, through the gardens, through the grand hall. The king tried to leave the balcony. He fell to the floor, but the earthquake was too strong outside the palace. The people of the kingdom ran toward the lower plains, but the ground kept collapsing beneath their feet. Some houses sank directly into the cracks of the earth. The sky was now completely dark with ash. The sun could not be seen. Only red lightning flashed inside the clouds. The mountain was not merely erupting, it was raging. Lava continued to pour into the valley. Burning rocks fell from the sky. The air became hot and hard to breathe. Amid the chaos, one by one, the kingdom's buildings collapsed. The market, the temple, the villagers' homes, and Finally, the great palace in the center of the valley. A final, massive quake shook the ground. Kraak. A gigantic fissure opened directly beneath the palace. The stone structure that had stood strong for hundreds of years slowly began to sink. Pillars collapsed. Walls shattered. The palace towers fell one by one, and within minutes, the palace was gone, swallowed by the split earth. Across the entire valley, fire and ash covered everything. The kingdom that was once full of life was now only a sea of destruction. And in the middle of it all, the great mountain in the north still continued to rumble, as if it were reminding the world of something, that an ancient oath never truly disappears, and anyone who breaks it will pay the price with a kingdom. When dawn finally came, the valley was no longer the same. The sky was still dark with ash. The sun appeared only as a pale circle behind the black haze. The air felt hot, and the ground still trembled softly, as if the earth had not yet truly calmed. Where a great kingdom once stood, only destruction remained. The villagers' homes had vanished. The once busy market was now buried under thick ash. The fertile rice fields had turned into cracked black earth. The river that once ran clear was now filled with hot mud. Its water flowed slowly between stones that were still scorched. There was no sound of life, no birds, no animals. Only the wind moved slowly, carrying ash dust through the air. In the middle of the valley, where the great palace once stood, there was now only a vast depression, a gigantic hole in the ground, as if the earth itself had opened its mouth and swallowed the entire kingdom. A few people survived the disaster of that night. They were those who managed to flee long before the greatest eruption occurred. Most of them escaped into the forests to the south. When they returned a few days later, they could barely recognize the place. There were no village roads anymore, no palace walls, no homes. Everything was gone. One of the elderly survivors stood at the edge of the massive crater. He stared into the deep abyss. Then he whispered softly, "The kingdom is gone." The survivors eventually left the valley. They traveled far away and built new villages elsewhere. But before they left, the elders who were still alive made one decision. They ordered that the story of the valley must continue to be told, not as a tale of pride, not as a legend of glory, but as a warning about the mountain that once swallowed a kingdom. Years passed. Then decades. Then centuries. The forest slowly grew back around the valley. Great trees covered the land that had once been burned. Yet no one dared to live too close to the mountain. Hunters who passed through the area often said the place felt strange. Too silent. Too silent. Too empty. And sometimes, on very dark nights, they could still hear something. A faint rumble from inside the mountain, as if something within it was still alive. Some people even believed that far beneath the layers of rock and lava, the lost kingdom still existed, buried, silent, trapped within the earth, and the mountain standing above it would continue guarding that secret forever. Yet the old legend always ends with the same sentence. A sentence the elders always speak to the next generation. The mountain never truly becomes angry without reason. It only demands back the promise that humans once broke. Hundreds of years have passed since the night when that mountain destroyed a kingdom. The forest has grown back in the valley that was once full of life. Great trees now stand upon the land that was once burned by lava. Wild grass covers the places where the kingdom's roads once existed. Yet one thing has never changed. That mountain still stands there. Its peak is often hidden by thick mist and oteti night. Its silhouette looks like a giant shadow in the sky. The villagers who live far away from it still know the legend. They do not speak of it often, but almost everyone has heard the story. The story of a kingdom that vanished in a single night, swallowed by an angry mountain. Some people believe it is only an old tale, a story exaggerated by time. But there are also those who believe that the legend holds a deeper truth, because sometimes climbers who venture too close to the mountain say something strange. They say that in certain places, the ground feels warmer than it should, and on certain nights, when the wind stops and the forest becomes completely silent, they claim to hear something from deep within the earth, a low, rumbling sound, a very deep sound, like something moving far beneath the ground. Some climbers even say that they have seen strange cracks in the rocks along the mountain slopes, cracks that radiate heat, as if the fire from the past has never truly gone out. Yet no one has ever been able to prove those stories. No one has ever found the remains of the lost kingdom. No palace walls, no stone roads, no temples, as if the place had truly been swallowed by the earth. But the elders' legend has always said the same thing, that deep beneath that mountain, under layers of rock and hardened lava, a kingdom still lies buried, a collapsed palace, shattered roads, and the forgotten story of human greed. The mountain now appears silent, calm, unmoving. But those who understand the old legends always say that a silent mountain does not mean it sleeps forever. The mountain is only waiting for humans to forget again, waiting for humans to dig too deep again, waiting for humans to cross the boundaries that were once agreed upon. And if that day ever comes, if humans once again forget the ancient promise, then the mountain may awaken once more. And when that happens, the world will remember once again what once happened in this valley, that there was once a great kingdom, a powerful kingdom, a prosperous kingdom. But in a single night, everything vanished, swallowed by a mountain that never truly forgets. And even to this day, that mountain still stands there, silent, waiting. And even to this day, the mountain still stands there, silent, covered in mist, waiting. If someday humans once again forget their limits, the mountain may awaken again. And when that happens, The old history may repeat itself.